Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show, where we go across country and travel the world with members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Let's go. Welcome, everyone. You know, every third Monday, we get to chat with travel writers who are members of the International Food, Wine, and Travel Writers Association, who we call IFWTWA, and they get to take us to a destination. And today we're going to Jamestown up in New York State, but we're actually going to be talking about the heritage of a very famous lady, Lucille Ball. And I'm so excited to hear about Lucy. And, you know, she's very famous. She's done so much, but she is a strong woman in her rights. So we have Tamara joining us at Tamara MC, and you can go to her website, tamaramc.com, joining us and keep up with her there. She is an awesome lady who's got her fingers in all kinds of writing, all kinds of topics, podcasting, you name it. So welcome. How are you, Tamara?
Oh, hi, Lisa. It's so great to be here. I'm so glad that this worked out and that I'm able to come on your podcast and speak about one of my favorite people, Lucille Ball.
Exciting about this. So you went to Chautauqua County. Did I pronounce? I mean, I think I got your name right. Now, am I going to get Chautauqua County right, or am I doing it wrong?
No, you said it perfect. Chautauqua. It has a wonderful spelling. I think it's Chautauqua.
Wow, we all get brownie points now. We get to have the brownies too and eat them. But yeah, so was this part of the conference, the IFWTWA conference that you went to, that you went there, or was this a separate trip?
Yes, it was actually part of the conference, and I am a new member. So this is my first year, and it was my first conference, and this was a post trip that I went on after. And I wanted to go to Chautauqua so bad. So when there was an opening for me to go, I was completely ecstatic. I was so excited.
So was this because of Lucille Ball, or was it because of the whole region? What was it that drew you there?
Yeah, so I originally went to Chautauqua. I went to the Chautauqua Institute, which is an incredible site in Chautauqua, when I was just around 20 years old. And I went with my sister at the time, and I stayed there, and it's right on the lake there. And it was such an amazing experience. And I've always wanted to go back, but I had to wait like 3 decades to actually return. So when I heard that there was a post trip going there, I was like, oh my God, I have to go back. I have to. And it worked out. So, and really at the time, I didn't know that that's where Lucille Ball was born. I didn't have that information. But then when I saw like the whole itinerary and I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, Lucille Ball is from Jamestown. Often people just think of Lucille Ball in Hollywood or New York. They don't think of her like in Jamestown unless they know a lot about her.
Right. I didn't think that. Everyone thinks Hollywood, right?
Exactly.
Because it's just automatically Hollywood. But didn't she do a ton in regards to, you know, just even being a comedian at that era as a woman, and then she ran companies. I mean, she was a businesswoman.
She was a huge businesswoman. And again, oftentimes people don't understand that, but she ran her own studio, which was Desilu Studios. And that was groundbreaking at the time, and it still is today. So she was very much a businesswoman, or a business person. And so she was doing a lot of things besides being like one of our greatest comedians of all time.
Man, I mean, she really did get people to, I think, you know, in that era of when she was on TV, she gave women that were kind of, you know, stay at home women, you know, this breathability of, you're more than that, and we can be silly. And they just allowed them to laugh. You know what I mean? I think she did a lot for women that were at home that maybe got to watch it, and it went down through generations, obviously. I mean, I don't know if people younger than me know her, but, she just was such an icon in hard work, and, just the joy that she brought to women at home. I think she was like, hey, you know, we can do things. We can, because she tackled things. She tackled topics. It's like the Golden Girls did too. They tackled things in humor for women. And, men didn't necessarily watch them, but then, I think men may have watched, I Love Lucy. But, I think she gave women a little boost, of, hey, we are something and we can laugh, you know?
No, absolutely. And I mean, I grew up watching I Love Lucy with my grandmother. So I would be at
Oh,
my grandmother's house and she'd always, whenever it came on, it would come on. And so I'd sit there with her. So that was my introduction to I Love Lucy. And so I think probably quite a few people maybe have a memory like that, like being with their mother or their grandmother and watching I Love Lucy. And I mean, back then it was such a wonderful time because I mean, watching TV was kind of like a family affair. So it's like when a show would come on, you'd sit there and then everybody would come together and it would be this bonding experience. And so I think the memories of watching shows like such as I Love Lucy or even The Golden Girls, which I also watched with my grandmother.
I love the Golden Girls.
I do too. But it's like, but the memories are so fond, I think, because of like being in that, like, I so remember like being in my grandmother's living room and like sitting on the couch and watching her face and her watching my face. And of course, like when you're a child, I mean, I didn't really get all the jokes at all. So I would just kind of laugh when she would laugh or just,
Hmm.
whatever it was. But I mean, like now, if you think about watching TV, like I don't have that kind of memories. I mean, if I watch shows, I'm usually in bed, like I'm watching them on my computer or I'm watching them alone. And so I think that maybe that's like some of the beauty of like shows such as I Love Lucy and kind of that nostalgia that they bring back.
Mm. And, you're a member of the, IFWTWA, the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. And I think all members listening to this are going all the way to the wine. When she did the grape stomping, that's one of the most iconic scenes. And then the chocolate, come on. I'm just going
Right.
in the food, wine, travel realm there for our, friends that are members of IFTWA, but I know our audiences are everywhere. But, come on. She did cover wine and food. She did, and chocolate, which is
No,
its own food group. So just saying.
no, she really did. So in Jamestown, there is the Lucy Desi Museum. So it is a museum that is just for like I Love Lucy fans.
Wow.
So it's incredible. And how they have it set up, I've actually never been in a museum like this before, but it's like two parts and there's like an entrance to each of them. I mean, you get the same, like it's the same entrance ticket, but like you walk through
Hmm.
two separate entrances and then there's two separate gift shops, but one of them just has to do with the I Love Lucy show. So it has all the gear that has to do with the show and it kind of tells the whole history of that. And then the other side of the museum is just about Lucille Ball. So it's just about Lucille Ball's life. And so it's this beautiful way of like integrating it both, but also keeping them separate, which I thought was so unique, such a great way to do a museum. I love going to museums and looking at like how they're set up and like the different ways that you can think of museums and you can create museums.
I agree. And now they've changed so much. It's kind of like, back in the day, bed and breakfast, or like for, your elite and maybe elder family members, you know what I mean? And, kind of felt stuffy to the younger generation, and museums were looked upon that way, like especially smaller ones like dusty, just a bunch of historic stuff stuffed in a room. Like really, that's kind of that, you know, but now museums have really changed. They've gotten so dynamic and, utilizing digital technology too. So, and making it for all ages. Did you feel that in the Lucy Museum?
Yes, definitely. But so then right next door to the Lucy Museum is the Comedy Center. So it's like the only museum of its
Mm.
kind that's like dedicated to comedy. So it has all
Oh, I
types of
love it.
comedians there, including Lucy. And so there, the exhibits are so like, what can I say? Like you were talking about the digital, there are so many fun things that you would never even imagine could be in a museum. And so going back to like the food and wine, what you were just talking about, the chocolate, the conveyor belt,
Hmm.
Lucy's like eating chocolate after chocolate. She's in what was it? Was she like in a factory and she was out to like,
Hmm.
I think she was
She was doing quality control by stuffing it in her face.
By stuffing chocolate into her face. And is what I kind of remember that, that actual episode, but her and her husband were trading places. He was going to work in the home and she was going to work outside of the home.
See, that's where it got into the Lucy land, right? Of change and thought and conversation for the viewers. Like, oh, women are going to go out, right? Yeah.
Right. And Desi thought, oh, it's going to be so easy just to stay home and do nothing. And then
make drums.
And then Lucy was like, well, I'll just go out and work. And it wasn't easy for her either, being in that factory. And it was going so fast, the conveyor belt with the chocolates, that she ended up stuffing them in her shirt and then in her mouth and all over the place. But one of the parts about the Comedy Museum is that you can stand behind a camera and you can actually play that scene out, and it can record you eating all the chocolates and going through all of the motions like Lucy did. So it's super cool. But then there was a couple of people who were behind the camera doing it at the time, and they didn't know that it was being projected out so everybody could see it. So we were watching them. And later they realized that, oh my goodness, they were like, everybody was watching them, attempt to eat all these chocolates. And of course there are no real chocolates. It's just they're moving their hands and it's looking as if they're, stuffing their mouth with chocolates. So.
Well, and then you said stuffing your mouth versus me saying they're just stuffing their faces. No, but this, that's amazing fun. I mean, and great, like, memories being made, right? Because you're literally standing in her shoes and doing that, and then learning even how film works, right? Did they go into that at all at the Comedy Century in the museum about like what it was like for her? Because she ended up owning different networks and all kinds of stuff. It's pretty impressive. I think she was a first in the industry of what she owned and directed and created.
Yes, that's correct. And they did go into that. I mean, it was the first time there was what was called 3-camera filming. And, and so it changed like how everything was filmed going forward. There was also a live audience during filming, which wasn't being used up until that point either. And then yeah. So having the whole audience there as we would hear them. So that was completely new. And then there was also syndication, which came about because of the show. And so there was so much that Lucy and Desi did. And something that, again, a lot of people don't know is they produced Star Trek. Like that's what Desilu Studios produced, and The Untouchables and Mission Impossible. So there's quite a few shows that were actually produced from their studio.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad. I know you're on our IFWTWA podcast, but we're also syndicating this out to our Big Glen Radio Women Making History podcast. And it celebrates women of the past, the present, and the future. Because we believe that women of the past are giving us the tools for the women of the present times. And it's all of our jobs from the past to the present to help the future. That's, so maybe that is Star Trek. Who knows?
Exactly.
Who knows? No. But look at how she changes. And so she was far more than a comedian. And a comedian to me is like the crucial career in what would we do without musicians and comedians and writers? And chocolate and wine. But, honestly, comedians absolutely. And a woman in comedy, I think, in her era, I think we had her, and we had Carol Burnett, and we had Betty White, right? Like real serious women comedians at that time. Just off the top of my head, I know there's some more. But
I really all women comedians like who are today have come from them. Like they all give tribute to like Lucille Ball. I mean, any comedian who has been a comedian since always attributes most of, so much of their success to comedians such as Lucille Ball. And so it's so important. But no, she was the first female studio head. And I think that was one of the things you were talking about. But in terms of like revolutionary impact, it was the first interracial couple that was on mainstream TV at the time. So that's also huge. So
you're right.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that, but that was something very big.
It was big to be interracial at all as a married couple. I mean, period. And I mean, yeah, we're still eking that out, aren't we? So it's, yeah, when you think about going back to it. Now, I know that you got to see her polka dot dress. And
Yes.
now the polka dot dress, I find this fascinating. I did a podcast recording, I don't know if it was this year or last year, I can't remember, for our Big Daily Blend show. And it was National Polka Dot Day. And I did all this research on polka dots, which, you know, when I was telling people I know it's polka dot day, they're looking at me like, what? And it had to do with back in the day, polka dots came out. There's so much discrepancy on it, but one of the things was like during TB is to have polka dots so it hides the stains on your handkerchief and things like that. If you had
Oh,
TB. Yeah, I know it's kind of ew, but um, popular culture came out. Lucille, definitely, she was part of that. And my favorite, one of my big favorites, musicians is Buddy Guy, the guitarist, is known for wearing a polka dot t-shirt, shirt, not t-shirt, shirt, or just wearing polka dots. And I think he has a guitar, polka dot guitars, signature guitars. And, and Lucille was part of that. And of course, itsy bitsy teeny weeny yellow polka dot
polka
bikini.
dot bikini. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this was where it kind of went, it became a fashion statement. It went from something very negative in a very dark time to something that we're like, hey, actually, this is fun and fashionable. And I think she was one of the first people to make it fun and fashionable to wear polka dots.
I didn't know that. I didn't know how revolutionary it was at the time. I'm such a huge fan of polka dots. I didn't even know there was a national day. So now you've made me very
I'm going to
excited.
have to, listen, everyone, I'll put the link in the episode notes and I'm going to send it to you, for that podcast because yeah, I had no clue either. And then I had to cut off the podcast a little bit because otherwise I would start writing a book because it's very interesting, but it is because it started so long ago, with polka dots and the fabric and how it happened there. It became a big thing in art. Anyway, I'll put the link in there.
Yeah.
Because it is just a really, yeah, I'm just going off the top of my head from when I recorded it. So if I got anything wrong, just listen to the podcast. That has it right. And it'll tell you if I didn't know either, because you could go down rabbit holes with things like that. But that's when, you talked to me about, hey, I just experienced this. And you talked about seeing her polka dot dress. I'm like, dude, we have to do this. It's like, I'm into polka dots now.
Yeah, I didn't understand that, but everything in my life has always been polka dots. One of my last homes I had, my laundry room was fuchsia, which is my color. Everything in my life is fuchsia.
Hmm.
And on the walls of my laundry room, I had huge lime green polka dots. So my laundry room was hot pink and lime green polka dotted, and it was adorable. So I'm definitely in the polka dot. So maybe that's why I also love Lucille Ball so much.
I like that about you. Everyone needs to go to your website, Tamara.com, MC.com, and it's MC as in the letters MC. Not as in like we're, having a concert. But they go to your website, they'll see that you're just like, you embrace, color and, you know, doing what you want, and unicorns and we can do all that. And I love that about you. It's very free. It's a very free feeling website, and belief system. So when you see things like the polka dot dress with Lucy and go to her, there's more to talk about Lucy, in Chautauqua. But when you connect with that and see more and more and learn more and more about her as a woman, do you feel empowered by that we can do? Because, there's been so many stereotypes of how we should behave and what we should do and how we should run our lives. Did you feel empowered a little bit more going and standing in, some of her history and seeing where she comes from? I know that she's got a childhood home there, Lucy Lane. I love that.
Yes, it's
But,
on LinkedIn.
did you feel a little bit more like, yeah, look at what I'm doing with, my media as a writer and, my website and your podcast and everything? Did you feel a little bit more like emboldened, like, yeah, I'm on the right track?
Yeah, I think now that we're talking and we're kind of talking about this polka dot dress and kind of the meaning behind polka dots, I really feel as if like instrumental people such as Lucille Ball in my life have like impacted me in ways that like unconsciously even like now that I'm thinking about my website and all of that and like kind of my colors, I think everything does come down to so many women in my life who've been mentors of mine from afar. Of course, they didn't know that they were my mentors, but I think oftentimes as women or as young girls, maybe we don't have a mentor. Maybe we don't have somebody in the flesh who is that mentor to us. And fortunately, many people do. I didn't, but I think because I didn't, I always looked up to people, you know, such as Lucille Ball and other people. And that was, I think, what probably helped create me in so many ways. And yes, while I was there, I did feel very, you know, I just think like thinking about her life, like she left Jamestown when she was only 15 years old because she wanted to be a movie star. Like she wanted to have a life in Hollywood. And so she went to New York City, and that's initially when I said New York, I was saying New York City, like not New York State. But she had to come back to Jamestown several times, you know, just as many people do. Like she couldn't quite make it yet before she ended up in Hollywood. But like the idea that already at 15, she knew what she wanted, and she had a very difficult childhood, a very difficult home. Like so many of us do, but that she was able to like see further ahead and see like what it was she wanted in life. And then just like the hard work. And I think so many times people don't understand how much hard work goes into all of this, and like, how hard she worked and how many hours she was in the studio and how many rehearsals and just all of it. And just how she never gave up on her dream. And I think that that's like the most beautiful thing is like when you see somebody like that who had a dream so young, and then she materialized it. Like the dream came true and she could live that dream, and she was able to leave her little small town, Jamestown, which she just wanted to leave so badly, and then to go into Hollywood and to make it. And in Jamestown, there still is her house. And I forgot the exact address, but it's Lucy Lane, and it has.
Oh, I got it. 59 Lucy
59.
Lane.
That's what I thought. 59 Lucy Lane. And actually, that's a website, 59lucylane.com.
Oh, wow.
So if you go on there, there's actually, I don't know who owns it, but somebody owns it. And they have a website, and they sell Lucy memorabilia on the website. Okay. So. But it was having work done when I passed by, but the garage, or I should say, what is it? A carport maybe, or maybe it was a garage, is in polka dots. And I think it's blue and white polka dots, kind of like
here we go.
Yeah, so it's very cute. So her house is there. And then also where she was buried is there. And so you can go to the cemetery and you can go visit Lucy, and there's a beautiful heart. And it's just this beautiful cemetery. So I really enjoyed that. I went there as well. And there's also murals throughout the town of Lucy. So really the whole town is kind of dedicated to Lucy. So just like step into Jamestown and you are just going to be able to make an homage to like to Lucille Ball. So it's
I had no clue about any of this at all. And when, we talked before this, I was like, are you kidding me? Like I was sitting back going, I had no clue. I did not know. Like I didn't even, and so many people travel according to TV memorabilia where movies were made and things like that, and it's really cool to go to a place and then just go, wow, it's like this other connection to someone who really did something. I mean, she entertained us for years and opened our eyes to things for years. She created dinner conversations that are much needed, and even to these days. And, to go to a place where she comes from and get to know her beginnings, I think that's amazing, to be able to go there. But the Memorial Park, there's a Lucille Ball Memorial Park.
Yes.
And so that's got a couple of statues. One of them is Scary Lucy.
Yeah. I mean, I love totally quirky, unique travel.
Yeah.
So this was like I was like, this was right up my alley. I mean, this story. So so they put up a statue of Lucy and it's really ugly. It's truly ugly. And so this statue was there for so long, and it's like the ugly Lucy statue. And then everybody was like, but we need like a beautiful Lucy statue. And so I think it was in 2019, if I'm getting do you know, I don't know if you have the date in front of you, but I believe it was around 2019. They put up a whole new statue in the same park. And it's the lovely Lucy statue, and it's beautiful, and Lucy looks just as beautiful as she is. Now, they were going to take out the ugly Lucy statue, but everybody was like, no, you can't take it out. We want it, because everybody wants to come see what it looks like. So rather than taking out the ugly Lucy statue, they turned it around so that the back of the statue is what you see first. So you don't see like her front first. And then the lovely Lucy statue is like you see her front first. So you can like go to the park, and then you can go see the ugly Lucy, and then you can go see the lovely Lucy, and you can compare them. And you can wonder, how did somebody ever create a bronze statue of Lucy that could be ugly?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You can't. Jeez. That's funny though. I mean, the world of statues and art, that's a whole other thing too. I wanted to ask you, well, going there, would you go back to Chautauqua? I mean, did any of the restaurants, the lodging, anything, also you talked murals, but did the rest of the town, like in stores, were they Lucy-fied?
Let me think. I think there was definitely certain areas that were, but there is like a list of like, I think on the Lucy Desi Museum site, you can go on there, and I mean, and I can also provide it too, because I have a list too, perhaps, but like all different places you can go to go visit everything that has to do with Lucy while you're there. And
well, yeah, I'll tell everyone, if you go in the episode notes on the podcast, we'll provide links there so you can follow up and go to Jamestown from there. So just look in the episode notes, whether you're listening even on Facebook or YouTube or Spotify, Apple, all those places, just go in the episode notes so everyone can get them there.
yes. And so actually right next to the Memorial Park where the statues are is a wonderful hotel where I stayed at. And it's called the Chautauqua Harbor Hotel, I believe. And it's right next door to the park. So you can just walk over. And it was such a gorgeous hotel. And there was Lucy memorabilia in the hotel, actually, lots of it. And some studio stuff about the studio there. And it was just this really fun hotel. And it has an incredible history. Like it goes back to the 1800s, and there used to be an amusement park there. And I was going to say that one of my favorite things about this hotel, and one of the reasons I would go back, which I don't think I've ever had this at any hotel ever, is they had coffee stations on every single floor. So if you were on the second floor, you didn't have to go down to the first floor to get coffee. They had this incredible station with like all your coffee, your creamer, everything you need. So everybody on that floor could just walk out of their room and then go to this station and get their coffee and then go back to their room.
Cool.
So
cool. Very cool. Coffee is important. Hey, coffee is important. It is. It is. So would you go back there now? I mean, now this is like a journey for you. This seems to be part of your life.
Oh, yes, I want to go back. I definitely want to go back. I want to spend more time. I didn't get to see all the murals. I would like to go see more of the murals. Really, you could be in the comedy museum for like an entire day. There is so much to see and do. So you really do need a lot of time. I would go back to do that. I would go back and spend more time in the Lucy Museum too. I had a guide that walked me around, and that was great, but it's also really nice to go by yourself and then to be able to read all the signs and to do that. And, yes, so I plan to go back and to spend more time, and I want to go back to that same hotel too. So
cool. That's cool. Yeah. And I think you're right. We go on these trips, as travel writers, and it's fast, it's a familiarization trip. It's so that you get a glimpse of it. We can share it with, our audience and everything, but it's a familiarization trip. So it gives you that little sizzle, and hoping you come back and do some more in-depth stuff, yeah, this is so cool. I had no idea. So, personally, I just want to thank you for going there and letting us know, like, hey, you got to go there. But I wanted to ask you how you got started in the world of food, wine, travel writing. Because I see that you do a lot of writing, memoirs too. But what was it for, joining IFWTWA and getting into that world for you?
Yeah, so I think I've been my mom was a big time traveler when I was young. And so from the time I was like 4 years old, we would just head into Mexico. We take the train down to Mazatlan, and then we just spend the whole summer there. And I just started traveling at such a young age. And then after I had my own kids, I took my kids everywhere. At this point, I've been to just about 80 countries. And it's just been part of my life. I've been to all the states except for Maine. I have not been to Maine yet. So that's on my list of places to go. But I've always been a
Yeah.
traveler. And then I'm an academic. So I have a PhD in linguistics where I actually studied language. So that was
Cool.
so a lot of my research through travel as well. And so after like alongside like my PhD work and like my academic work, I then really got into creative writing. So after my PhD, I was accepted into Columbia University for an MFA in creative nonfiction as well as poetry. I got into two different programs.
Cool.
And so I've always been a traveler. I've always been a writer, but I didn't even know that travel writing existed. How can that even be? Like, how could I have gone like half of my time and not have even known about this? And I don't even know how I found out about it, but I found out about it. And I just went to my first, like, really, I've only been doing travel writing for less than 6 months. But I've already placed so many articles because I already know how to place articles because I'm an essayist. And so I guess all my skills, I was able to marry them. And I feel like this is like so perfect for me because I just love learning about people. I love speaking. I love learning about places. So I don't know. I can definitely see this being like my life for the rest of my life until I can no longer do this. So,
Well, it's cool because you're also just connecting the places with the people. Like even the Lucille Ball one is, this conversation. And I know you've got a story coming out with the, Food, Wine, Travel, magazine through IFWTWA. So, everyone, as soon as we get that link, we'll put it up there for you. So check back often. Um, but when you think about it, you're connecting the people and the places. Do you do that? Is that part of it for you?
yes, I mean, I love pop culture. I love to write about anything pop culturally, pop culture-y. So
That
yeah,
is a word. It is
I
now.
know. I just made it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
So I think that anything that kind of has that pop culture flair and it's like it's about a woman, then I'm kind of like all over it. So yes, I do. I like that. I like, that aspect, but I really love just looking at really strong, incredible women and whatever that is on my travels. And, part of when I was in, New York, I was, really studying Harriet Tubman, which it was just is it
Mm.
today? I think today's Harriet Tubman Day. Yes.
Hey,
Happy Harriet Tubman Day.
right on, right on.
Yes.
Cool.
So I kind of spent so much time too, like just really studying her and learning so much about her strength and like not just the Underground Railroad, but like so many things that she did in terms of being a landowner and being a mother and like having something for the aging. Like she had like the first place like where people were becoming older that they could then come to this house and be taken care of. So there was so much to Harriet Tubman. So I guess really my joy and like my interest in travel is just like learning about people of our past and like how are we today where we are? It's because of so many of these strong, incredible
Mm.
individuals. But then also just kind of people that are living today and just meeting shop owners and walking into shops and into restaurants and learning about like what was their dream? Like, how did you end up with this restaurant? How did you choose this name? Like, I love all of it.
Yeah,
It's just, to me, it's just learning about people.
I love that. I think that's the thing is because when you start traveling, you start finding these stories that are deeper and it means more than a snapshot or a Instagram post. You know what I mean? Like here's me here. You know, it goes beyond that. And when you start traveling, you want to tell everybody everything. Like I'm like that. I just want to like, dude, I just went there. Everybody must go. They must have the experience. You know, it's like, just don't all go at the same time I'm there. But you know what I mean? It's like you just get all excited about it. And and there's so much, it tells the human story when you travel. Whatever food you're eating, that recipe was created from someone for some reason somewhere. You know what I mean? If
Mm-hmm.
it's regional or maybe it's a family recipe that was passed down. I mean, all of that goes into something really magical and special. And so I think that's important when we travel is that we're sharing these stories. So we're keeping people's history alive too, you know, and nature. I got to bring in nature on
Yes,
that too.
absolutely. Nature. I was going to say that too.
That's
So
my thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's totally my thing too. So in Chautauqua is the Roger Tory Peterson Institute. Have you heard of that, Lisa, by chance?
Yeah, I'm thinking Torrey Pines in California. No,
Yeah, no,
no.
no.
So tell me
No,
about
so
the
so
institute.
this is the birder and
Oh
so
yeah, yeah. Okay.
yes,
That's
Roger Tory
so his
Peterson.
name is all over the place because of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So there's an institute there and you can go in and learn all about him and bird identification and how the modern
Cool.
field guide was created and
No way.
it
Oh, that's my
it
thing.
yes, I think you would absolutely love that. But I'm writing a story. It's not out yet. But what I found super interesting that a lot of people don't talk about him, but he had three wives and not all at
What?
the same time, and they came differently. But it was really about how these three wives supported him but how they carried his camera gear and how they kind of did all this labor. And then how like he divorced his longtime wife and he married somebody younger. And it's like all this drama. So
Oh boy.
but that's kind of the story that I'm like, oh, I was all over that story. So I've been researching this and I'm like writing it up but no,
Wow.
I really want to write about the three wives of Roger Tory Peterson and like how they built him and created him and how there's so little known about them.
And that's why alimony was created. Saying it's not just about having the kids because were taking care of one to begin with.
No,
I'm just saying.
exactly. I mean,
I'm
behind
just saying.
so many
Oh my
great men are these incredible women that we don't often hear about. So those are the
God.
stories that I want to know about, or like, who are these women behind
Yeah.
men? Like we know Roger Tory Peterson and his field, like all this, but does anybody talk about the women and how much they were doing for all of
Mm.
this?
When you go into history in the communities, you find so much about women, like, you know, the women's clubs back in the day were so cool. I actually belonged to one years ago when we lived up in the mountains in San Diego and Julian, and this women's club had been there for years. And, you know, my mom and I go in and we're the youngest, you know,
Okay.
and they all look at us like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, they need members, you know, and they did a thing for pennies for pines where, you know, people, they would go get pennies from people and they planted trees over this. And, you know, there's just all these stories, but they would start their meeting every month. Was it every week, every month? I ended up doing a music fundraiser through them for getting education, music education to the kids on the mountains, which they were so cool with me. But they would start their meetings reading from the diary, the journal of what these women wrote in. And I mean,
Oh,
we're talking about the 1800s, and it was just like, wow, this little town that we're sitting in with its historic buildings, it was like a Western town, you know? It was a mining town, and then it went to agriculture, and it was about what the women went through. And so much of what happens to make a town work came from these women. Not saying the men didn't do stuff. They did. They worked their butts off. You know, it's like, hey, okay, the gold panned out. Now we're going to apple orchards and pear orchards. And then that led to wine and it led to, you know, now it's small downtown, right? And, gosh, gossip was good there. I'm just saying. But, they did have underground tunnels for prostitutes back in the day. But anyhow, but the women are the ones who made the education work. The women are the ones that kind of put, you know, the quality of life into a place that was so hard. And so they would work themselves to the bone to make this happen. But it was all for the betterment for the youth, really. And so that their work wasn't in vain, you know? And
Yeah.
so you go to these towns across the country, cities, you're going to find multiple thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of women that created this country in that way. And I'm also going into the indigenous world. The indigenous women have been the caretakers of this world so much as well. You know, they're the child bearers, the nurturers. And so those stories have to be told. Anyway, I went on a soapbox. I'll stop. But I do want to say this. Women being in the world of food, wine, travel writing is pretty, prevalent. Now I've talked about that on a few shows lately too, that, it was a very male dominated world in travel writing. They got to go off and, be the big critic and we're going here, leave the kids and wife at home. And look now, and you look at an organization like IFWTWA and it's majority female. It is. There's men in the group, of course. And so I'm just saying the roles have changed a bit in the world of women going out traveling solo, maybe with groups. Organizations like this really make it work and help. But you didn't have that many 100 years ago of food, wine, travel writers that were women, not that many, it was always the men.
Think about how the stories have changed because of that. Like, do you think at that time there would be an I Love Lucy story? Like a man would necessarily write that, or a man would write the story?
They would talk about Desi.
Right. Right. So it's so important because now we're getting all these different stories that haven't been told because we are writing these stories and we're coming into it and telling like the other story that hasn't been typically told. And
yeah.
But I also think like, why are men not in it today? I mean, I can have some assumptions myself, but I mean, I could say it also has to do with money too. This is not a high paying career, as I'm sure you're aware of. And so, but then again, like that is this thing. It's like now that women are in it, like, I don't know, I always think about money and it does make me angry that like we do work so hard and we're probably sticking it out, but a lot of the men have left because it's not rewarding financially. And
that changed because the media industry changed because of the internet. So that changed. I got to say that because I grew up in this and I grew up in it in South Africa. My mom had a magazine there in print and, I did this through high school, started in high school and graduated high school and went full time. And then we came back to this country, started in print, 28 years next year. We'll be in print in this country. Not in print, but we started in print, but now we're online and our industry changed significantly because of the internet. We saw it coming and publishers didn't. We did a lot online even before Google existed. And so, podcasting, we've been in it since it started and it has changed significantly. I mean, all the people that were the big new greats, they're gone. It's not even, it's different. YouTube has only now been more in the podcast in the last few years, so it has just changed so significantly. And then the advent of social media has changed. So, what happened is print magazines and all of that, they wanted to stay that way and not progress. And so the marketing money went away because marketing was going into social media. Marketing was going to online platforms like Google and stuff like that. So it significantly hurt the publishing industry, which hurt the industry as a whole. But it also, because of blogging, gave women a place to spread word and connect and communicate. And that is part of what happened. And yeah, I have to tell you, even IFWTWA, we had IFWTWA on podcasts at the beginning. And at that point, as an association, they were only then starting to let bloggers in because at that point, it wasn't even looked at. Blogging wasn't even serious that many years ago. It was like, so the change has been real. You know what I mean? It's been real. And
So
women
where have
found
the
they
men
could do
go?
this. Huh?
Where have the men gone then, would you say?
They didn't do the storytelling that way, you know? They do a lot of books. The men were always their TV shows and things like that more than anything. Podcasts. Yeah, podcasts, but it's different. There's definitely men. And I think more men should get involved in it and
Mhm.
balance it out a little bit, you know? Um, there's definitely men that have been on our shows. We've got Chris Christensen coming on. We've got Scott, there's people on there, but it is a different world. It just changed up a little bit. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how the pay went. And just from what I personally have experienced in the industry, and I'm getting old now, but not really, because I'm young at heart and I keep going places. And my last word on everything is yet, you know? So, it's a changing world. And now we have different plans and ways to capitalize on content that, wasn't there years ago. So it
Hmm.
just, the whole playing field changed.
Right.
So yeah, it is. It's changed and it's different, but it's very cool.
No,
It's very cool. It's
I
very
guess
exciting.
no, it is very exciting. I mean, like, and just like maybe ending like with Lucy, like she was the first person to be pregnant on television. So,
Oh, yeah.
so to think about that, like to think about how far we've now come. Like then, could you imagine a woman actor being pregnant, but she was the first person to actually do that?
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it was, I mean, it used to be you should be seen and not heard. I
mhm,
mean, we still have a war on nursing in public places. So,
right.
she did something on that and also owning a business back in her day. I mean, my grandmother, when my grandfather died, didn't even know how to sign a checkbook or balance a checkbook, checking account, you know, because
No,
it was the man's thing back then. And I'm not knocking on men. It just was what was going on at that time. History is what history is. You look at it and go, that's what happened. Do we want this moving forward? Yay, nay. Can we improve? Yay. There's always a yay to improving and maybe not having some of the older ways. But that is what was going on back then. And so I love to hear these stories of going and seeing what women did and how they changed things because your women wear their heart on the sleeve, like musicians and artists do. And it's the hardest thing because emotionally you feel it because you're also a nurturer. So it's heart and soul out there. And so when women take strong stands, we have to support them, you know, because
right.
they're wearing their heart right out there. They're putting it out there. So I love that you got to go out and experience Lucy Ball's country, Chautauqua country. I love that. I love that. So everyone, I'm going to keep you posted. We'll put the links in the show notes, and as articles come out, we'll keep you posted on there, especially on our site, blendradioandtv.com. We'll be putting the podcast on there and link to stories as Tamara gets them out there. But go to her website, tamaramc.com, and also go to IFWTWA.org to learn more about the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. Their next conference is coming out in Lafayette, Louisiana, which, dude, that's like Zydeco brunches, man. Zydeco breakfasts and alligators and Tabasco sauce and so much
Woo.
amazing history there
And
too. So,
I
mhm.
think today I just received an email that it's the first day of like registration and it's early
Oh, wow.
registration. So
You go, girl.
you can
Yeah.
get
Did you?
you can get the best rates right now.
Well, hey, we got to bring her on more shows. She knows how to plug it. Like, did you enjoy the last conference that you went to, which was your first one, right? So
Oh my
with
God,
IFWTWA.
I loved it so much. I loved my pre-tour, which was incredible too. And then I loved my post-tour and then the whole conference and no, all of it. All of it. I think I'm like an addict now. I
Did
don't
did you make friends?
I really made friends on the pre and post trips because you're suddenly with all these strangers and you're in a car and you're having to navigate who's going to have shotgun and who's going to sit in the back and in a small van. And so, yes, you become quick friends. So, I mean, I
That's
did,
cool.
I met quite a few people on both trips. And then I think at the
Cool.
conference, it was a little bit hard. Like, I think at the conference itself, maybe it's a little bit more difficult. But I definitely would say that on pre and post trips, that's like the best time to meet people.
Yeah, the conference, it's like getting down to work. You're learning and you're in the conference, you're in seminars and workshops and all that stuff, right? So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you still have time to talk at meals and then,
cool.
were you there this year?
No, no, we were not,
Oh,
unfortunately. No, no.
okay. But you're going to go next year?
It depends on timing. We'll see what we
Okay.
can do. Yeah, yeah. We were too busy playing hurricanes, actually. So, no, but
Right.
anyway, yeah, we were going through other things, but, yeah, no, no. I think the conferences are fantastic in Lafayette, Louisiana. We love Louisiana. In fact, yesterday just drove through it. So,
Did
it's,
you? Okay.
yeah, it's a beautiful, have you been to Louisiana? Well, you've
I
been to all
have.
states.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have. And I was so excited to learn where the conference is going to be next year. I was so excited.
Yeah,
So,
the music there and the French connection, Lafayette is like, it is Cajun country. There's like, and speaking of it, that was the last episode of Anthony Bourdain was filmed there. So we
was
talk
it?
about male travel writers. Anthony
Oh,
Bourdain
yeah.
definitely was, one of the, best in the world ever, in it. But yeah, that was his last episode that aired
I
was
didn't know
Lafayette,
that.
Louisiana. Yeah. In
Wow.
fact, I think, Ben was on our show not even 2 months afterwards. And it was like, I felt like, I was like, I'm not going to cry. It was,
Uh-huh.
yeah, Ben Berthelo, he comes on our shows. He's, the executive director of, Lafayette and, travel at Lafayette. And I remember when he first came on the show and we had just seen the last episode and it was just like, dang, man, it still chokes you up because he really went around the world and he really showcased, he put the people in the spotlight. And that's what I was talking about with what, going to see Lucille Ball and sharing her story, sharing about the women behind Tori's life, the women that did his work, you know what I mean? The dirty work. I think those are the stories people need to see because there's the typical headlines and the typical, things that we see, like a plaque, but let's go beyond the plaques, on a monument. Let's go beyond that. Let's get the stories of the people that are behind it all. And that's what Anthony Bourdain did. He wanted to know the people,
Yeah. He was an
so,
incredible interviewer. I have a photo with Anthony Bourdain that I hold. Oh, yes. So my mom is a huge fan of Anthony Bourdain. She's from New York City, and we were in New York City, and Anthony was on the street. We were like, she's like, oh my God. And so we stopped and he took our photo and
oh, wow. No, that's something to cherish. That's special, man.
I know it's a special photo. I love the photo. So yeah, definitely. He was the best interviewer, just all around the best in so many ways.
I still want to see all his tattoos. Yeah. That's a trip. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a sure delight having you here on the show, and we look forward to next time. So, everyone, we got to get Tamara back on next year and have fun in Lafayette because I know you're registering. Go
Oh,
get the special deal right now. But looking forward to reading all your stories on Lucy and learning more. So, everyone, again, look in the episode notes for links there. Thank you so much for joining us.
thank you so much, Lisa. So great speaking with you. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Food, Wine, and Travel Show featuring members of the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We encourage you to visit their website. We say IFWTWA, which is IFWTWA.org. You can also follow us at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels, everyone!